Imagine, if you will, a circle of friends who've known each other since they were kids, each a character in their own right. They enjoy the company of one another, and their connections are almost magical when they're together, attracting smiles and attention wherever they go. And they go some pretty magical places. They have a passionate history with paranormal and ghostly experiences, both together and individually. This led them into a lifelong search to explore the unseen, unexplained side of our world. They've done their homework on the supernatural subjects over the years and have been completely dissatisfied with the conventional research available. So they decided to be slightly unconventional in seeking answers. This is a journal of their search, research, and adventures together. We began our journey in the early 80s as young teenagers. There was me, I'm Colleen, my little brother Jason, my best friend Chris, her boyfriend Bobby, and Chris's sister-in-law Sherry. Chris, Bobby, and I took our first stab at a real paranormal investigation around 1985 at a place called Sleepy Hollow Lake outside of Kansas City. We found out very quickly that we have a knack for ghost hunting when we saw several apparitions at that location, piquing our adrenaline and our interest in the supernatural. The experiences we shared with our group inspired my brother and I to become involved with independent film as special effects artists, which took us to some really crazy, creepy locations and landed us in the middle of several very haunted places. In 2007, I shot a short film called The Donor at Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City. This 2-day shoot opened the floodgates for us as paranormal investigators. Commissioned in 1836, the prison was a sprawling 47 acres situated on the east side of town, with the Missouri River running directly to the north and neighborhoods surrounding its other 3 sides. Known as the Wall for the massive stone retaining walls snaking its perimeter, it housed a number of infamous inmates during its 168 years, such as boxer Sonny Liston, who learned to box while imprisoned there, and gangster Pretty Boy Floyd. James Earl Ray escaped from this prison in a bread box, eventually leading to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. The prison was decommissioned in 2004 and is currently under renovations as a museum, business park, and haunted bed and breakfast. As filmmakers, we weren't focused on the history of the place as much as we were making our movie. None of us even considered that it might be haunted, and we paid little attention to our surroundings until our surroundings demanded our attention. Cell Block 4 had a lot to say, and it started with cell doors closing themselves, lights that went off and on, and finally with a blast of wind in a closed building that was strong enough to knock shelves off the wall and equipment everywhere. All of this happened before the sun even went down. Once it was dark, and it got very dark in there, lights continued to turn off and on, and our equipment batteries were draining very quickly. At one point, my still camera disappeared into the dark abyss. After 20 minutes of searching with flashlights, the camera reappeared in the same place I left it, but someone or something took these 2 pictures while it was missing. We've had them analyzed, and there is no reason for the overexposure or for the odd coloration. These photos cinched it. I had to go back, and I was taking my brother with me. When we returned, we were not disappointed. There we were, locked down in what Time magazine referred to as the bloodiest 47 acres on U.S. soil, and we were spending the night. The massive complex was difficult to cover efficiently, but we knew where some of the hot spots were, and we were escorted by guards who had been around for a while.
We were in the office over at the old garage. We were sitting there just kind of letting the time go by and drinking coffee, and there's a whole box of locks that they've used in the old prison. These locks are pretty heavy. Anyway, they jumped about 3 feet out of this box and landed out here on the cement floor.
And you got to watch this?
Yeah. And we were surprised that happened, you know. Jack and I were sitting there at the door. The garage door was up one night. Let's see, Jack was on outside patrol, and I was sitting there watching the gate, and his dog barked, and it sounded like he was right behind me.
While we was working there one night, the one door would creep open so far, and then you could hear kind of a dragging, and then the door would kind of shut.
Another instance, I can't remember the date and time, but it had been storming one night, and I went by this, it was kind of a blue-green van several times, And anyway, the lights wasn't on. That's one of our things that we have to check to make sure the lights are not on, no flat tires and stuff like that. We report stuff. Well, Jack started on his next patrol. He looks down in the parking lot, and the lights, all the lights were on the van, including the dome lights. So he jumps in the Jeep, races down there. We thought maybe somebody cut a hole in the fence and got in. He started with the spotlight to the Jeep, and it went out. You know, he kind of looks at it, didn't have lights, so he goes back, gets in the Jeep, and as he starts to drive off, all the lights in the Jeep go off. So he goes on around the parked cars, and as he gets to the car that had all the lights on, he noticed they were all off. So he comes speeding up the hill to where I was at, watching down the hill, and he said, "Hey, get that other spotlight and go down there with me. I think somebody's in that vehicle." So we both go down there. It was kind of foggy in there, and anyway, we couldn't see anything. The van was locked up tight, so we went back up to the office and recorded it. I'd drive around that old hospital, and you'd see out the corner of your eye, you thought you saw something. Then you look straight ahead and you wouldn't see anything.
I caught movement, but when I looked back, it wasn't there. You know, and that's when I kind of questioned myself. Now, did you really see anything or not? Well, you know how fast things move around here. Have you heard noises during the day that you couldn't explain?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I never was through here during the day or inside the buildings where I could explain any of that. But,
Yeah, there's always stuff inside the buildings. You know, sometimes I'll know what it is just because I know how buildings are built. But a lot of times there's no real rational explanation of what the noise is.
One of the most unusual EVPs we have came from the pre-tour that night when we stopped off at the gas chamber for some B-roll footage. Our camera crew set up next to the macabre building a few feet away from me, but I decided to take the walk. Listen closely as I take my first step onto the path. Did you hear the strange horn and the singing? Listen again. Remember, there was another camera crew with audio running only a few feet from me. You saw me walk past them. Their audio didn't pick up anything but crickets. Cell Block 4 was quite lively again that night too, producing some of the best orb footage we've ever seen. These clips were taken from about 40 minutes of film from a stationary camera. It was shot on a Sony Handycam with Super Night Shot, which means it was shot in infrared at a very low shutter speed. This setting will allow for very low lighting, but it's kind of grainy and slow. We thought to begin with that this might be dust or hair, until it started doing this. Altogether, we ended up with a little over 2 minutes worth of footage of this anomaly out of approximately 40 minutes worth of film. That's actually quite a lot. This is the same area where we had a ton of activity during our movie shoot, and it left us with a lot of questions about orbs. Orbs of light have been reported since the dawn of man. With the advent of digital video and photography, more orbs are being captured on film. But what is an orb? We set up our infrared cameras and tried a little baby powder, some water spray, dust, human hair, smoke, bubbles, bugs galore, and even a little glitter. If you'll notice, nothing really looks exactly like the light orbs we captured at the prison. There is a distinct difference between the stuff we tested and the orbs we call anomalies. Some of them appear to have personality, but does that make them a spirit? They may be random balls of energy, or even another type of life form. No one knows for sure, but the obvious truth is that they are none of the things we tested, and we were hunting for answers. Our quest led us to our first official investigation as Show Me Ghost West, which was at an unassuming trailer in southwestern Missouri, and it blew our minds. The Grove Street trailer was a private residence where the reported paranormal experiences were so physical, unfriendly, and frequent in nature they could be classified as poltergeist activity. When we got the phone call for this investigation, it came from the local police department, who honestly didn't know how to help the family when they showed up at the station in the middle of the night. They claimed to be so traumatized by the ghostly activity that they slept together in the living room for several nights before moving completely out of the home. When we began our night vigil at Grove Street, it was a quiet and empty trailer. We experienced very little physical activity while we were there, but when we reviewed the audio, we found some of the best electronic voice phenomenon we've ever heard. We met the client at her trailer just before sunset. She was very nervous, and her husband flatly refused to re-enter the trailer, but she stayed long enough to take us on a hasty walkthrough. This EVP was captured on a handheld digital voice recorder as we made our first tour of the trailer. The family advised us that the presence in their home was not a friendly guy. His unmistakable voice gave a clear understanding of just how welcome we were. This is another EVP captured with a handheld recorder on our initial walkthrough. Was she talking to us or to someone else? We aren't sure because we were moving from room to room, but the words are exceptionally clear. This EVP is another capture from our short but very active initial walkthrough.
A little longer, a little longer, a little longer.
We wondered what she meant by this, but many of the EVPs we got that night are a curiosity. We had a lot of trouble with our equipment that night, especially dead batteries and videotapes that didn't want to record for some unknown reason. This EVP was captured when I was struggling with my camera, and my frustration level was peaking. If you're a minor, cover your ears. I'm about to drop an F-bomb.
Dizzy, broad, double motherfucker. Relationship. Alright, I need to adjust this light. Dizzy, broad, double motherfucker. Relationship. Alright, I need to adjust this light.
We assume this means that F-bombs are explosive on mini planes. We debated on whether or not to use a sensor beep with this clip, but decided that it would really take away from the EVP itself. After taking base readings and wrangling with our equipment issues, we set up with an EVP session in the living room. The client reported this area to be a hot spot, which included objects moving on their own. During this session, we could actually see shadows moving around in the kitchen, but we were unable to catch them on film. We did, however, capture some great audio.
Is there anyone here that would like to show themselves or be heard? If you stand in front of it, you might actually fuzz the picture. We would know that you were there. Did you live here on this property? Can you move any of those lights? What is your Last name. Come on out here. That was interesting. Did you hear that? Yeah.
We decided it was time to take a little break, and we went out onto the porch, but we left our static voice recorder running inside. You can hear us in the background, completely oblivious to all the thumps, taps, and voices heard around the microphone. The voice seems to be trying to get our attention with the hey and the help, then goes on to say a very clear hurt. Is this a residual moment from history captured on our voice recorder, or is this a spirit asking for our assistance? Sadly, we'll probably never know. We no longer have access to the trailer. After our break, we came back in and continued our EVP session. This was captured by a stationary recorder that was sitting in the middle of the living room floor during this session. We're not sure what this is supposed to mean, but the words are very clear. We moved on to the front bedroom, where the homeowner reported that she saw the mini blinds fly up by themselves and hold in a horizontal position. We were playing with the blinds and testing some potential theories when this EVP was captured on our handheld voice recorder. It gives an almost cartoonish impression. Remember, the trailer was completely empty, which means there were no clocks around, especially a cuckoo clock. When you're working on a movie commercial or other film set, it's good etiquette to call out the word flashing if you take a flash photo. This keeps the electrical department from thinking that a light burned out and going on a wild goose chase to replace a bulb. In this EVP capture, I was taking a picture, and out of habit I called out flashing.
Flashing! Flashing!
It almost sounds like it's mocking me, and the sound is very similar to the cuckoo, but not quite the same. It really makes you wonder who and why. Although we picked up a ton of awesome EVPs at this location, we saved the best for last. This EVP took place in the back bedroom on a stationary static digital voice recorder. We were in the living room conducting an EVP interview when it was captured. You can hear us in the distant background, but you will also hear deep thumps and taps on the microphone, disembodied whispers, and one of the creepiest voices we've ever captured. We found the voice here to be eerily interesting, so we condensed the clip down to isolate it. I won't lie to you, it raised our hackles when we first discovered it. After listening more closely, we decided that it sounded really slow. As serious researchers, we don't usually apply filters to our EVPs unless it's to raise the volume. We believe that if you have to do more than that, it compromises the integrity of the evidence. But this one was so striking, we believed it needed some enhancement. So we applied a pitch shift and sped it up a bit. This is the first time Show Me Ghost West has captured a slow-motion voice, and we are all still puzzling over it. It's hard to tell for sure, but we think it sounds like there might be two voices speaking. We really didn't know what to expect from this investigation, and the EVPs we captured took us all by surprise. But Chris was especially perplexed.
The spirit has no vocal cords or voice box. How are they making sound?
Good question. EVPs aren't usually heard at the time of the recording, but are found later when reviewing the tapes, so the physics behind the recordings are confounding. The term EVP is an acronym for Electronic Voice Phenomenon, and we were surprised to find that the first person to hear an EVP was none other than Nikola Tesla. At the time, he was experimenting with sound waves and radios.
The sounds I am listening to every night at first appear to be human voices conversing back and forth in a language I cannot understand. I find it difficult to imagine that I am actually hearing real voices from people not of this planet. There must be a more simple explanation that has so far eluded me.
That was in 1918, and considering that Tesla spoke at least 6 languages fluently, he was completely baffled. This set both him and Thomas Edison on a lifelong search to record and interact with the voices. Neither ever accomplished their goal, but many people have continued this work, still with no real explanation as to where the voices are coming from or how they are really being made. EVP researchers typically classify the phenomenon into 3 groups: Class A, Class B, and Class C. Class A can be heard without headphones, and people can generally agree on its content. Class B requires headphones to distinguish, and not everyone will agree on the content. Class C requires headphones, often needs amplification or filtering, and will seldom be understood by everyone. EVPs are not always voices either. They can be music, machinery, taps, bangs, animals, whistles, and much more. It's also important to recognize, despite the fact they sound really creepy, they aren't always meant to scare you. Since ghosts don't have vocal cords, they utilize what they can to make noise, and it often comes out sounding sinister or frightening. We know that both digital and analog recordings are created through magnetic and electromagnetic impulses impressed on a tape or digitized into an audio format. We have often experienced an electromagnetic flux at the time an EVP is recorded. Not always, but often. And this leaves us to speculate that it may be a manipulation of magnetic and/or electromagnetic energy. Does this theory apply to video and photography? Our next investigation brought us face to face with that very question. We certainly get some strange requests, but this was the first time we investigated a stretch of road, and the story behind it is just as odd as the request itself. In 2007, I headed up the makeup department for a feature film called The Albino Farm. This movie was written as a horror flick based on an old Ozark legend. While the filmmakers may have taken artistic license with their interpretations and the movie was not shot at the actual location, the Albino Farm itself is very real. It's surrounded with bizarre stories, scary legends, and a strange vagueness in the local historical archives. When the film went into post-production, the editors found something quite unusual in the footage shot on a country road just outside of Warrensburg, Missouri. The following is an email from the assistant editor to the producers.
About 3 nights ago, we were working on a compositing shot and we were trying to remove some garbage with a difference mat. In the middle of this process, we saw the image attached to this email. I assure you that no Photoshop work has been done, and this is with a difference mat between a lockdown shot with the dwarf and the same lockdown shot without the person. What you're seeing is a degraded image of the original, and I have no idea why this happened. We shot with a Sony Cine-Alta F900 on brand new Sony tapes and compressed to DV for an offline edit. Let me know what you think. It freaks me out every time I look at it.
Imagine being this editor. You're wading through the footage late one night when a quick glitch in the film catches your eye. You isolate the glitch in a single frame and find this image staring back at you. That's where we came in. Since there didn't seem to be a technical or logical reason for this image anomaly, producer Joe Anderson asked us to give our paranormal opinion. Understand that only one frame in this footage was affected with this anomaly, and the only enhancement we made was to adjust the brightness and contrast. What you are seeing here is the actor crouched in the middle of the road with his back to you. This image has become known as the Dwarf Road image and has stirred up a lot of interest, particularly around the old dwarf himself, Paul Ford. This is the film clip in question from the Albino Farm movie, minus the frame containing the anomaly. We slowed it down for easier viewing. We decided it was time to take a trip to Dwarf Road, and we took Paul with us. We put up our safety cones and sported the very stylish safety vest to begin our night vigil at Dwarf Road.
Okay, so here I am now in the dark, freaked out. Hold me, mommy.
That was weird. I just felt like somebody was standing right over here next to me, and I thought it was Sherry, but it wasn't.
It was way weirder than any of us thought at the time, too. If you'll look, Sherry is taking a picture up the road in this clip. Watch carefully and see if you notice anything strange around the safety cone when the flash goes off. Upon reviewing her photos, we noticed that the reflection from the cone wasn't visible in this particular shot, but was very visible in all of the other 300-plus pictures. We adjusted the brightness and contrast, enabling us to see better into the pitch-black night, and found that there appears to be a solid human-looking form blocking the cone from view. Then we went back through the video and slowed the footage down to about 12% of the original speed. The figure is standing in front of the cone from Sherry's camera angle, but from my camera angle, it's slightly off to the right of the cone. If you do the math, it can't be more than a foot taller than the 3-foot cone. It's obviously dressed in something long and full when all of us were dressed in shorts, jeans, and reflective vests. Who or what is this solid form standing at the top of Dwarf Road? Is it human, or is this somehow related to the strange anomaly taken from the Albino Farm footage? Considering its size, was it somehow attracted to Paul because of his height? Whatever the case, we know it wasn't one of us, and whether it was a ghost on a residual haunt, a hobbit, or a very short and curious local, it was a little unnerving to find someone watching us from the shadows. Despite the 3 images found on this road, 2 of which corroborated, historical research on the area turned up emptier than what we found on the Albino Farm. There were a few references to the haunts of Warrensburg, but nothing around Dwarf Road. One website said Warrensburg is quite a spooky place after dark, and we agree. Speaking of spooky places, we've had several ghostly experiences in commercial haunted houses, which is really ironic. If you go to these places during the Halloween season, you can pay to walk through and have the actors scare the bejesus out of you. But for some strange reason, the buildings have a tendency to harbor real ghosts too. Once again, we found ourselves in southwestern Missouri, this time at a commercial haunted house that was closed for the season. This particular building has a long and rich history of commerce trading. It was built in the late 1800s and most recently is the location of the Bates County Elks Lodge commercial haunted house. Bobby, being the creative individual he is, volunteers his talents to the Elks each Halloween season. After a while, people started telling him strange tales, like the electronic equipment would be running when no power was on in the building, or people working alone heard unfamiliar voices, noises, and bumps in the night. We weren't there very long when we had our first experience.
Hey guys, my cataract lens, my lens replacement, just went completely foggy.
That's because you're covered in orbs.
That was the weirdest thing. That only happens.
Are you normal now?
Really, yeah, it's normal now.
When it's real
but
cold.
not when I'm looking this way.
They're still all over.
When I'm looking this way, it is foggy through the lens of my replacement lens.
Here it is again in slow motion. We might have dismissed this as dust, but since her experience seemed to coincide with the activity, we found it hard to debunk so easily. The only other time this has happened to her was when she went from a hot house to a below-freezing outdoors. But that's only been a time or two in the 20 years she's had this particular lens.
Isn't that bizarre? I've never had my eye do that before. Usually for me, it is either smell or my stomach turns. Well, I had cataracts when I was born, and so when I was 18, I had my left eye done. They removed the old bad lens with a cataract on it and put on a fake lens. And then about 7 years later, I had my right eye done. So they both have artificial lenses in them. The one in the right eye is definitely different than the one in the left because it is a more recent and better technology. The left eye is the old lens. I've had to have enhancements done on my right eye, but never on my left eye.
Then, completely by surprise, it happened again. This time in the maze. Amazing.
Oh, whoa. Whoa, my eye's out of focus again, Colleen.
Oh, yeah, I see why it's out of focus.
Okay, so, I don't have a digital recorder.
Just talk to him. I've got my camera on.
All right. We can see you. You want to go ahead and talk to me? You're really jacking with my eye right now. Can you back off just a little bit? Because I can't really see you. Thank you. Oh, that's so much better. What's your name? Do you live here? Are you from this area? Or are you just passing through?
Well, let me go through the sound, guys.
Stop and back up, please.
And
Thank
look
you.
in this corner, Jason. Do you see anything?
Yeah.
Is it hazy to you? Because
Yeah,
it's
hazy.
really messing with my eye.
All right, well, I got the sound up here, so but be quiet,
Okay.
don't move, nothing.
Can you make this green light? Can you make it move? Okay, I really need you to quit messing with my eyeball because it's starting to dry out now. I can't stay here because it's hurting.
Notice how these light orbs are primarily aimed at her head. There wasn't any type of air movement, and they seemed to disappear around her face. They didn't hurt her, but they made her eye feel dry and uncomfortable, so we had to move on. We were also able to pick up a couple of really fun EVPs at this location.
Is there anybody in here besides us? Is there anybody in here besides us? If that was you, could you do that again?
Is there a spirit in this side of the building? Someone who just likes to hang around here? Someone who might feel like they need to stay here? We'd like for you to talk with us. Communicate somehow.
Sure hope that got in the machine. I picked up a...
Like a breathing noise?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it's shorting out, Bobby.
Yeah, do you think you gotta turn that off so it doesn't...
When we leave, it'll shut off.
Oh, it only comes on.
Yes, inside. Can you make a noise?
Okay, something just triggered that motion sensor in there.
Yes, it did. It just triggered this motion sensor right there.
This next clip came from the nursery. The room, quite frankly, gave us all the creeps. We figured that was a good place to set up with some EVPs, but then Bobby got cold feet.
Flash. My left leg is just freezing.
When he noticed the cold, Bobby panned his camera down and caught this interesting anomaly running down his left leg. In the same town, we had great luck at the old high school, which was also used later as the police station and local jail. For over 100 years, children attended this institution and grew up to send their own children and grandchildren through its doors as well. A new high school was built in the 70s, and when the facility moved, the police department occupied this building for about 2 years while waiting for construction to complete on their new station. The basement was converted into a makeshift jail, and it was during this time police reported it to be the location of a prisoner's suicide. According to witnesses, a young black male was being held in the basement cell when he fashioned a noose out of his shoelaces, hanging himself from the steel crossbeams in the ceiling. After his death, officers reported unusual activity in the room, which included being touched, hearing noises and voices, and generally feeling uneasy in the cell. The building is currently being used as a community center for a variety of meetings and events. This was the second time we'd been to this location, and after our first visit, we found out that the basement wasn't the only place that harbored unexplained phenomenon. One of our first stops was the balcony over the gymnasium, where Bobby noticed a strange cold spot.
Get around me and make the temperature go down. Come on, you got it at 69. Okay, there's 70. It's floating between 68 and 71. It makes a dip down to 68 and then goes back up to 71.
We're here to talk with you, to acknowledge your presence.
66, 0.7, 0.6, 0.5, 0.1. 66.3.
I can feel you.
As Bobby issued his request for the temperature to drop, several fast-moving anomalies can be seen around him. There was quite a lot of dust in the balcony, but no moving air, and these guys seemed to be moving rather quickly from different angles. We slowed them down to 33% of the original speed so you could get a better look at them.
Well, I'm not calling that number up. 66.5, 66.4, 0.3. I'll give you a cookie. 65.2, 0.1.
Standing.
Just touched my hand.
Which hand?
My right hand, the one holding the camera.
Okay.
65.6, 0.7. It's pretty cold around me.
I can feel it here, and I'm probably, what, 10 feet from you?
Go easy. Oh, this is so cool. I really appreciate this. And I mean, the colder you make it, the better off I feel. It's floating between 65.2 and 65.5.
From 71?
From 71.
Oh, I'm about to die on
But I
tape.
appreciate what you've done so far. That is really cool, wherever you're at. Thank you very much. And look, it's going up, 66.7, 66.8. It's going back up. That was cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, he's standing right behind me. I've got the coldness on my right leg.
You think that's crazy? Look at that.
That's awesome. Okay,
You have a bunny foo-foo tail.
As I felt the cold on my back, Jason snapped this picture of a very brilliant orb hovering behind me. Then, as I turned my camera toward the auditorium, another light anomaly shot away from me and into the darkness. We decided it was a great time to visit the old jail cell in the basement and try a little EVP action. This voice was captured during our first visit to the old cell where the suicide had occurred. This is what we got on our second visit, and it is a complete change of attitude from the first one. The basement was empty when we captured both of these EVPs. Once inside the cell, Chris felt like she had company.
What is your name? Why are you here? Are you standing behind me? Come on into the circle. What are you doing down here? All right. So you crazy?
The EMF meter over there.
Was that you? Yeah, there was something behind me. Like breathing on the back of my neck. 0.1, 0.2.
0.5?
The electromagnetic frequency meter was fluctuating up to 0.6 around nothing more than an old toilet.
Okay, we're going to try this again. We're going to leave this EVP monitor in the cell. We're here at the old high school / jail here in Old Town Butler.
Bobby had a new toy and was anxious to play with it, so we left the static voice recorder in the basement and went back to the top of the stairs to try his new spot mic.
I'm going to step down here in the hole and see if I can get some response, because it was right inside this doorways where we got some good EVPs.
This nifty piece of equipment is also known as a parabolic dish. It amplifies sound, theoretically allowing us to hear EVP responses in real time. This is one of the EVPs Bobby mentioned. It was captured in this doorway on our last visit.
That one is stored. And the other one is downstairs. You got that one, this one, and the other one's still downstairs. And
We just had the three of them, right? We just had the three of them?
Yeah.
Bobby and Jason were standing at the top of the basement stairs using the spot mic for a few EVP questions. Here's the response they got, coming from the stationary voice recorder we left downstairs inside of the cell.
I'm hearing music.
You still hear that?
I'm hearing music.
Because Chris named it. Follow it.
Our static voice recorder captured the music Bobby heard, still sitting 2 floors below in the old jail cell.
Can you talk to me, please? I can hear you with this machine I have in my hand. Do you hear how low I'm talking? With this machine, it sounds like I'm yelling in my own ear. If you're here, please respond.
At first glance, this looks like a bug, but it was the middle of winter, and if you take a closer look, it doesn't really look like a bug at all.
Is that Mr. Microphone?
Yeah. You're lucky I'm not recording.
Sorry.
I mean, this thing is so sensitive. I'm picking up everything.
Jason decided to try his hand with the spot mic while Chris asked a few questions.
We're trying to communicate with you this evening. The tall man in the middle of the room wants to talk with you.
Once again, an interesting anomaly had to check out the new equipment, looking almost like it came out of Jason's hand as he waved.
Hey, are you here with us? Are there spirits here with us tonight?
Chris had really good luck with EVPs when she was at this location the first time. Here is a full conversation she had with a disembodied voice. She didn't hear any of this at the time of the recording, but it was found later during audio review and playback.
My name is Chris. I've lived in Butler for about 10 years. The year is 2008. It's September. Tell me about yourself.
Recorder in the other room.
Say that again?
The batteries are almost dead.
Yeah?
We're looking for Miss White. We're looking for an Ella White, a Mrs. Ella White. Do you know her? That's the name we got the last time we were here. If we're wrong, let us know. What is your name?
On her previous visit to this location, Chris carried on quite a conversation with another disembodied voice that identified itself by name.
What's your name? What's your name? How old do you think you are? Have you tried to communicate with people before? Do you want us just to leave? Okay, I think I'm starting to feel your presence.
Much to our surprise, the surname has been confirmed as a teacher who used to work in this building. It was getting late, so we started off to pick up our static equipment and wrap it up for the night. As I stepped down the stairs, a fast-moving anomaly zipped by on the right side of the screen and curved around like it was going up the next flight of stairs.
Can you imagine how many people have walked through that door and up these stairs in the past 100 years? Children from the ages of 11 through 18. It's pretty amazing stuff.
I love history.
I do too.
It's one of the reasons we're such creeps about this kind of thing.
Right here. Big grass down too. Okay, right in here? Okay.
What's here?
Yeah, I was to 5.
What?
Okay, now bring it down low.
1.09. Go down low, like almost to your ankles, below your knees.
Yeah.
Make it stronger.
Okay, there's something underneath the steps.
Like conduit or some kind of electrical something.
No, seriously, guys. Okay, you think about these people, 100 years worth of people coming in and out, and they walk out. This is a beautiful front view here. Okay, so you think about all the kids that, they came out of the music room, they've seen this spring, summer, winter, fall, for 100 years. Snap.
Snap! And yet another fast-moving light anomaly shot past Chris. We're not sure what they are, but they exhibit qualities we find intriguing, and their timing is certainly coincidental enough that we pay attention.
Go ahead, Shay.
Well, are we ready?
We were finding evidence of paranormal activity at 4 out of 5 locations we investigated, and our next stop added to our collection nicely. In the heart of Old Town Lenexa, Kansas, there stands a cute 2-story house called My Granny's Attic Antiques and Collectibles. Built in the late 1800s as a duplex, it was an antique consignment store when we were there. To start our evening, we split up into 2 groups. Owner Michelle Staley went in with our first team, and we managed to get a couple of Class B EVPs.
Just touch the end and the light will come on. Just touch the end and the light will come on. Can you light the lights up? Can you light the lights up?
Then we went into the hole. The hole was hidden in the very back of a closet, and it consisted of a small door leading into a little room and a tunnel that stretched across the length of the house. It opened up at the other end into another little room. It's been speculated that the hole was used to hide people, maybe slaves or booze runners. Whatever the case, it was a reported hot spot, and Bobby decided to crawl in.
Well, there's still old wiring up here and everything.
You have the EMF meter with you?
Boy, you read my mind, Paul.
How close are you to I'm touching the old wire, and I've got a 0.4. All right.
Not the old wire.
I pull it away from the wire and get it in the middle of the tunnel. It goes to 0.8. Anything above you? No, sir. No, that you gotta have to do more than that.
You behave yourself and tell me who the hell you are.
The EMF meter was spiking, then something threw dust up in Bobby's face, and we got this EVP.
You behave yourself and tell me who the hell you are. You behave yourself and tell me who the hell you are.
Our emotions were all over the place. Like one minute we were dealing with a little child, and the next, an axe murderer. The hole was trying our patience and tweaking our emotions when we got this next EVP.
0.8. 0.8.
Then, Bobby was confronted with a ghost that rushed him, not 2 inches from his face.
0.7, 0.8, 0.7. I'm coming. Okay, back. 0.7, 0.8, 1.6, 0.8, 0.8. Well, you don't like it? There. Oh, I just saw a face.
Nice. Did you get it on film?
I don't know.
Mysteriously, his camera shut off seconds before this happened.
Now I'm out. Okay, I got her back up. It says I got 45 minutes of recording time, 40 minutes of battery.
When the EMF readings finally died down, Bobby pried himself out of the tunnel.
Uh-oh. Straighten your knees out. There you go.
Funny. Are you getting this? Are you getting this?
You know I am.
Assholes. I love all of you. Let's go.
When asked what he saw in there, this is how he described it.
Light-haired colored, but I couldn't tell if it was in the camera or if he was between here. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. Because I caught the image in the lighting of the camera. So I don't know if it's on camera or if I caught it between.
Michelle also went in with our second team, and that's when things got more unfriendly. When Michelle sat down on the antique daybed, she noticed a painful sting on her back.
You have scratches on your back? Let me see.
Upon inspection, there were 3 visible scratch marks up her low back. When we reviewed the audio, we found this very opinionated EVP.
You know, it sounded like it was in there. You okay? You know, it sounded like it was in there. You know, it sounded like it was in there. You know, it sounded like it was in there.
Layered over Jason's voice, you can hear an old woman clearly stating her case. This was obviously her bed, and she didn't appreciate Michelle sitting on it, but she didn't have to be so cranky about it. This brings us to a couple of points about haunting. 1. Yes, it is possible to have a haunted item. 2. A violent or negative paranormal experience does not have to be demonic. Spirits are just people. Good, bad, crabby, happy, and shy. The fact that Michelle was physically assaulted put Chris on the defensive, and she fired off some questions, getting this EVP response on her camera audio.
Who are you? Now you have to know that we're not walking in the same plane here. That we're not walking in the same plane here. That we're not walking in the same plane here.
After her daybed encounter, we decided it was best for Michelle to remain outside. Our team went back in and broached the basement together. It was reported to be the most active place in the building, and it didn't disappoint. I placed a static voice recorder on a shelf in an empty room, and we got to work. At one point, we thought we had captured something. We got a little wound up and all started talking at once. This is what we caught on our static voice recorder, still sitting alone in the other room. The basement was an odd-feeling place, and it seemed that we were chasing something all over.
You know, you can run. You can run all you want. But eventually, we're gonna find you.
That's when we got this EVP from the static recorder I left in the other room. This was a complete foreshadow of what was to come.
You know, you can run. You can run all you want. But eventually, we're gonna find you.
On our camera, you can see and hear Paul scooting something across the shelf, but that's not what came across on the voice recorder left in the other room.
That could have been it too.
Just before we left the basement, we tried one last EVP session and sat the K2 meter on a table.
Battery just came dead. Just.
Yeah, we just had dots on the meter too. There we go.
There we go.
Hi.
How are you?
Ooh, I got goosebumps.
Well, hello to you.
Thanks for over here.
Thanks.
You do like that chair, don't you?
Hello, how are you? Are you a happy guy? Is there something that we can do to assist you? What can we do for you?
Do you want us to leave?
When we got upstairs, Chris announced that she was going to take some still photos while we started an EVP session.
And you guys do your thing. I'm going to take a few pictures around in here.
That's when we got into a conversation about IR lighting and black t-shirts. Most black t-shirts show up as white in infrared.
What color shirt are you wearing?
Black.
It's black on IR too.
Okay.
What if it has to do with the material that it's, or the dye?
It might be.
The dye that's used. I mean, these camo ones, do they even appear any black on them?
Yeah, I can see black on it.
Because that's greens.
Whoa. Okay.
Whoa. What happened?
I just saw something like right up in my face.
On the camera or right
No, in my face.
With your naked eye?
Walk over there.
I don't know, my camera just went dead.
What was that? Was that
Ooh.
a Was that a
Ooh! Ooh!
Oh, there's something there, guys.
There was something there, all right. When we analyzed the photo she was taking just before she saw the anomaly, we noticed a strange milky white transparent substance bulging from the shelf on the left side of the picture. Could this be what she saw rushing up in her face?
I was like right here. I took a shot. I was looking this way so it didn't blind me. And when I turned back around, it was like this white mist, but it was solid, had stripes to it, and it was like right up there, and then it was back, and that's when I backed up. I was like, wait a minute.
I bet you did.
Isn't it interesting that her husband Bobby had a similar experience in the hole upstairs just a couple of hours before? While Chris is not a runner, we found it coincidental that one of the EVPs we got downstairs said she was going to run only 45 minutes before. Granny's turned out some great evidence and taught us all a few things. Like, don't sit on the daybed without asking. The supernatural touches our lives every day, but really got up in our face with the recent loss of our dear friend Dave Stutzman. We've all known him since we were very young, and his death at the age of 45 saddened us deeply. My son Adrian just happened to live next door to Dave, and they shared the same landlord. Since Dave's house was so much bigger, Adrian and his girlfriend decided to upgrade and moved into Dave's house about 2 weeks after he passed. It didn't take long for strange things to happen, which included doors closing, strange smells, and finally, Dave's ghost was seen. The dog even started talking to someone in the room that no one else could see. It's a rare occasion that you actually know the ghost who's responsible for the haunting, so we absconded on the little house, hoping to catch a message from our friend. Right off the bat, our EMF meters were all full of crazy readings in the sunroom. It was like the little room was permeated with electromagnetic energy, and we really couldn't narrow down a source. Even the windows had high readings, and none of our different meters would agree on the levels. We found a strip running down the middle of the room that registered normal levels, and we discovered this is where the heat duct ran, but the room was otherwise so polluted it made Bobby dizzy. We even broke out the dowsing rods, and they illustrated the dead zone nicely. Was that another orb? Just before settling down for an EVP session, I got up to close the door. This is where we picked up an EVP that sounds just like Dave.
Shall we shut this door?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and shut this door.
That'll help. Get it down, babe. Oh, I got two. Oh, I got two. Oh, I got two.
Around midnight, my 14-year-old son came into the room and asked, in all seriousness, if one of us would take him up to the game shop.
What? Look at this face. He jests. Alan, fluff off.
What the hell was that?
What was that?
That was behind you.
It was right behind me. I could feel something on my legs. Oh my God, I'm covered in I am covered in goosebumps, you guys.
There was something right there. It popped.
Wow! I thought it was over by Chris. I am covered.
No, it was right over there. It was right by you.
To us, this sounded like a gunshot, which is interesting because Dave was an avid collector of firearms. It was poignant timing, too. Dave was always reminding Alan that there is more to life than gaming, and he commonly used the phrase "Alan fluff off" when the occasion called for it. Chris was sitting across the room, focused on the K2 meter, and from her angle, you can see the percussion actually seems to jar the camera lens and the IR light.
Alan, fluff off. Alan, fluff off. Alan, fluff off.
What about the goosebumps? I was absolutely covered, even the backs of my hands.
Well, but now I'm really curious because not only did I hear it, but I really felt a physical reaction.
Was it cold or was it hot?
It wasn't either. It was like this wash of goosebumps. I mean, it covered my kneecaps, my legs, all of my arms. I mean, it was just like this wash of goosebumps.
Wait a minute now, you might think it might be a physical reaction because it was so close to you.
That was your body instinct going, whoa, what is that?
What the hell was that? No,
Yeah.
come on, guys. I worked in haunted houses for how long?
Yeah.
I've been startled. I've had the hell startled out of me before, and it didn't feel like that.
Was this a hug from an old friend? It wasn't frightening, but it certainly took my breath away.
So, you got any more tricks up your sleeve there, Stutzman?
Yes, please.
You know we're here for you, dude. I don't want to think that you're stuck here, Dave. I want to know why you're hanging around. Stetson, that was freaking cool.
That was fluffing cool, man.
It wasn't long after that, Chris was reframed on the K2 meter on the floor, but she wasn't paying attention when the meter started to slowly pulse. Then came the tapping.
Dave's already scared the shit out of us once.
Or we think that was Dave.
I hope it was Dave.
It was very aptly put to be Dave.
That ain't no lie.
You hear that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Tapping. You hear that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Tapping.
As with the gunshot, we couldn't figure out exactly where it was coming from, except it was definitely coming from inside the room. Was this Dave speaking to us from beyond the grave? We'd like to think so. We miss you, Dave. Rest in peace. Between Dave's house and Granny's attic, we found ourselves pondering the science of electromagnetism. The odd EMF readings at both places were intriguing and thought-provoking. EMF stands for electromagnetic frequency, and it's a very complicated science that spreads out into all kinds of applications. It applies to paranormal research quite a lot, and there are a couple of different theories pertaining to this. It seems that EMF is often elevated in the presence of spiritual energy. Does this mean that ghosts produce it, or do they utilize the energy somehow? In our experience, it could be both. Science started playing with electromagnetism in the early 1820s, but to this day, nobody really understands it very well. We know it's a force that causes interactions between electrically charged particles, and it's responsible for almost everything but gravity on a molecular level. It's created in both electric and magnetic fields, and also has its own field measurable in what they call Gauss units. That's typically what our gauges measure, whether it's on a digital screen or with K2's multicolored lights. When we run an EMF sweep, we expect higher readings around anything with electricity running through it, which includes computers, TVs, appliances, power lines, and even our own equipment. With this in mind, we found ourselves investigating a haunted radio station. KMOE 92 FM is a family-owned business and has been broadcasting in the Bates County region since the early 1960s. It was built by brothers Bill and Jerry Thornton as a life dream. After Jerry died in the mid-90s, the station passed down through their family to his niece and the current station manager, Melody Thornton. Since Mr. Thornton's death, there have been consistent reports of shadows, disembodied voices, and odd mechanical failures. With Melody's permission, we spent a night researching the phenomenon at the building. It's a fairly small place, so we set our base outside and enjoyed some of the local wildlife. The tower sits only a matter of feet away from the back door, and huge power lines run right off of it and into the back of the building, so we were anticipating some interesting EMF readings. Because of the broadcast and climate control equipment, the white noise was very high and presented quite a challenge, so we set stationary voice recorders in 3 different rooms to help cover our bases. It has been suggested that static, also called white noise and pink noise, is somehow related to electronic voice phenomenon, and this was the perfect opportunity to experiment. Surprisingly, there may be something to that. Before we ever even got started with our investigation, we got 2 EVPs from the front lobby. The first one is a Class B EVP. The next EVP was also captured in the lobby. We'll play it twice. The second time we applied some filters and cleaned up the static so you could hear it better. Remember, the building was completely empty when we captured both of them, and it sounded like someone shifting around as well as shushing. As expected, the EMF was a little high around some equipment, but the overall building had surprisingly normal readings, until we got to Uncle Jerry's old office. We walked into the office and got this next EVP almost instantly on the stationary recorder we left in the room.
What we have here are cameras and electromagnetic frequency readers and some audio recording devices also that are specifically to pick up voices of those people who have no bodies. What we have here are cameras and electromagnetic frequency readers and some audio recording devices also that are specifically to pick up voices of those people who have no bodies.
The K2 meter started going crazy when we passed our hands over it, which is completely bizarre. People don't typically emit measurable EMF, but the meter was definitely reacting. That's when we recorded this next EVP.
Wow. Okay. Would anybody here like to comment on this? Wow. Okay. Would anybody here like to comment on this?
One corner of the desk was reading some strange EMF, but the drawers were empty and there wasn't anything electrical sitting on or around the area. So Bobby put a Gauss meter there and settled in for an EVP session.
Jerry, is that you? Do it again if that was you. Oh, wow. I know this might be boring, but can you do that one more time? If that was you, Jerry, do that one more time.
Approaching it.
if that's you, make that go up again. Make it go up to 2.5 again. Use as much energy in the room as you can and make that go back to 2.5 again.
Not only was the Gauss meter responding directly, but there was also the tapping reply, which we didn't hear at the time. We also found this EVP.
Sherry, if that's you, make that go up again. Make it go up to 2.5 again. Sherry, if that's you, make that go up again. Make it go up to 2.5 again.
Was that Jerry communicating with us? Maybe, maybe not. The voices we picked up had distinct female tones to them, but the Gauss meter seemed to be responding to Bobby's line of questions aimed at Jerry. Chris, Sherry, and I ventured into the broadcast box where there were many reports of disembodied voices and a shadow that had been seen by several people passing in front of the hall window.
So please, make a sound. Jerry, do you remember your niece, Melody? She now runs your station. Are you happy that she's kept the station going for you? It's that thing on the top of my head again. There it is again. It's like something is touching the same spot in the top of my head with an electrical charge attached to it. It's just like a little zip, zip, zip. There it did it again. Jerry, are you messing with the top of my head? Are you not Jerry? Are you somebody else? Do you realize that you have died? Whoa, there was a light in there.
I saw it.
Did you see that?
I saw something flash like that.
It was like on top of the ceiling, and it was a bright white light, and it was there for about 2 seconds, and then it was gone.
Look at this, Chris. She's not even touching it.
What's the other one reading?
.2.
What in the world was going on with the K2 meter? It purely made no sense whatsoever. The K2 had never done that before and hasn't done it since.
There it goes.
Yeah.
You don't even have to touch it.
I'm not touching it.
I'm going to take our little K2 meter over here. Wow. I was just over here. There was no... And it's gone.
Take it
Gone.
up high. Take it up high.
Nada.
Turn on the angle if you hit it.
Nada.
Oh, but there it is.
Oh, hello.
It's not... It's moving around.
We decided to follow the K2 spike out of the broadcast room and down the hallway. The readings were very high compared to our earlier sweep, and it suddenly hit me there might be an old gravesite somewhere on the property.
Is there a graveyard or a burial ground close to here?
Is your tribe Osage?
I don't know any Native American to speak of.
Well, the Osage Indians were very heavily populated in this area.
Yeah, I just saw that shadow over your head.
Yeah, because whatever it is messing with the top of my head again. I've got an electrical charge going through the top of my head. So, you're Osage? You're Osage Indian? If you're Osage Indian, touch the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah?
Are there others here like you? Touch the top of my head if the answer is yes. Are there others here like you? I don't feel anything.
Wow, you can feel that too, can't you? What are you feeling?
The top of my head is just zapping.
Oh, look it. There it is.
I believe it. I believe it.
With the activity so elevated in the hallway, we sat down for another EVP interview.
Are you still here?
Halito. I only know a few Choctaw words. I don't know if the Osage know them or not. Halito Chinchikma. Excuse me.
That was Christine.
Such a lady
that
she
was
is.
Mountain Dew. Oh, they call it that good old Mountain Dew. And men that refuse him are few. Gonna lay round the shack till the milk train comes back. And I've just
belching up that good old Mountain Dew.
Just put two songs together that don't go.
When Chris started singing, the K2 meter began flashing at a full 20-plus Gauss. So she thought, being in a radio station and all, a little music might be well received.
Oh, yeah.
You got the goosebumps?
Wish I was on old Rocky Top down in the Tennessee hills. Ain't no smoggy smoke
on Rocky Top, ain't no telephone bills. Once I had a girl on Rocky Top, part bear, the other part cat. I forgot the rest of it.
Na 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 Rocky Top, na 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 na.
Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Do you know that song?
Corn don't grow at all on Rocky Top. Dirt's too rocky by far. That's why all the folks on Rocky Top get their corn from a jar.
Good old corn mash. Make some fine whiskey.
When you turn it the other way behind you, Sherry, I lose it. Is there any kind of... Are you getting anything on it back over there? Mm-hmm. So it's just right there between you and Chris.
Mm-hmm.
See how far it comes back? Because this area, yep, it's just right there between you and Chris. Oh, well, maybe not. Ooh, it's now between me and you and Chris.
The energy floated between the three of us, giving us all goosebumps. Whoever or whatever it was seemed to appreciate the serenade. We brought Bobby back into the broadcast studio. Since he's Choctaw and the presence seemed to respond to the word Osage, we thought a little Native American interaction wouldn't hurt.
I think that one of the presences that we're dealing with is Native American.
Alito, did Chigma? Yes, that's Choctaw.
Hey, Bob. Can you, sing a song? You know, like a Native American song?
But, I don't know if it would do that any good. I mean...
Well, why I say that is because we were singing some old 1800s.
We were singing Rocky Top.
And it kind of ramped up some things. So I didn't know if you wanted to try.
The song Bobby chose was his family song and a tribute to his father, who was a true mentor and friend to us all. Although the energy didn't respond to it and the activity died down for the night, we were left to wonder if we were dealing with a vigilant uncle, electromagnetism produced by the tower's high voltage, Native American spirits, or all of the above. The evidence we captured indicated a haunting, but the activity was non-threatening, almost gentle, and it left us to speculate what was on this land before the radio station. We were doing a lot of ghost hunting in southwestern Missouri, and our research turned up a ton of history that might help explain that. Not only was this region heavily populated by the Osage Indians, but it was also caught right in the middle of Order Number 11 after the Civil War. And there was a lot of death, destruction, grief, dissension, and broken lives as a result of this. According to Wikipedia, General Order Number 11 was a Union Army decree issued on August 25, 1863, forcing the evacuation of rural areas in 4 counties in western Missouri. The order, issued by Union General Thomas Ewing, affected all rural residents regardless of their loyalty. Those who could prove their loyalty to the Union were permitted to stay in the region, but had to leave their farms and move to communities near military outposts. Those who could not do so had to vacate the area altogether. Properties were burned to the ground, and families were chased out of their homes, torn apart, displaced, and killed at the hand of their own government. This was all an attempt, in the words of President Lincoln, to, quote, clear out marauders, murderers, and mischief makers, unquote. Could this travesty be the reason we investigate so many hauntings in this region? We haven't found conclusive evidence, but the possibility is certainly there. The investigations continue to stream in. Ordinary people are reporting extraordinary accounts of things they can't explain, and it seems to be increasing at an amazing rate. Almost everyone we meet has a ghost story or paranormal encounter to share. Is this a sign of the times? Some of the evidence we've presented will make your skin crawl, but doesn't it also make you think? When a suicidal prisoner asks you to get him out, how do you unlock the door? How were we supposed to know not to sit on the daybed because the old woman will scratch you? How do you hug a ghost? When you remember that you are dealing with people, they may not have a body, but they're people, then you begin to realize that it goes beyond the skin crawling. For us, it inspires us every day to hone our communication skills with life and beyond. Ghosts are not pets.